morning everyone. Today I am going to discuss about the display instrument. An instrument which is used to display the various parameters such as voltage, current, power, frequency, etc. that is called as a display instrument. Here the instrument used is cathode ray oscilloscope. By means of this instrument, first we can able to observe the output voltage or current or any waveform. Then after the observation, the measurement of the voltage, current, any parameter has been taken, and then after taking the reading, we have to analyze the waveform. This analysis have been done by plotting the amplitude of voltage, current or any parameter along y-axis and time that has been taken along the x-axis. And this cathode ray oscilloscope that can be used in various laboratories because it will give the reliable output as well as stable output, and the operation of the CRO that will be very simple. So due to its advantages, it can be used in most of the laboratories. And this is the actual CRO. In this you can see a graph is there. In this graph the waveform that is plotted, and these waveform that may be in the form of square wave, sine wave, rectangular or rectangular waveform or anything. Now let us see the block diagram of this cathode ray oscilloscope. It will have various blocks like vertical amplifier, delay line, a trigger circuit, time-based generator, horizontal amplifier, and then a power supply and a cathode ray tube. These are the important blocks of this cathode ray oscilloscope. And the first one is vertical amplifier. Here the input signal is given to the vertical amplifier because the input signal for this CRO that will be very weak. So the input signal that will be amplified by means of this vertical amplifier, then the amplified output that will be given to the horizontal deflection plates as well as the vertical deflection plates. And the second part of this CRO that is called as delay circuit. The output of the amplifier that will be given to the deflection plates, but before giving the input to the deflection plates, the signal that will be processed through various circuits such as trigger circuit, time-based generator and horizontal amplifier. So while providing the signal through this various components, a time delay that has been occurred. This time delay that will distort the output waveform. So in order to avoid this distortion in the output waveform, a delay circuit block is provided. By means of this delay circuit, we can able to reduce the distortions due to these various blocks. And the third block of this cathode ray oscilloscope that is called as trigger circuit. The function of this trigger circuit is to produce the triggering pulses for the operation of this time-based generator. The trigger circuit produces the trigger pulses, and that trigger pulses that will be applied to the deflection plates, and the output of this trigger circuit that will be given to the time-based generator, and the time-based generator that will produces the waveform actually. And here the trigger pulses that will be in the form of sawtooth. These trigger pulses that will be given to this time-based generator, and this time-based generator that will produces the sawtooth waveform, and that sawtooth waveform that is applied to the horizontal deflection plate. But the input to the horizontal deflection plate that is not sufficient to produce the magnetic field. So the output of this time-based generator that will be given to this horizontal amplifier, and this amplifier that will amplify the sawtooth input actually, and then that output that will be given to the horizontal deflection plate. Now this energy that is sufficient to produce the forces in the horizontal deflection plates, and Next one is a power supply for this cathode ray oscilloscope, and here the power supply that is produced by means of two circuits. One is low voltage supply and the one is high voltage supply. And here the high voltage supply, which is used to provide the negative supply, that will be in the order of minus 1000 to minus 1500 volts. And similarly this low voltage supply that is used to provide low positive voltages, that will be in the order of plus 300 volt to plus 400 volts. And this low voltage circuit that is used for the working of electronic components inside the CRO. Similarly, the high voltage circuit that is used to provide input to the anodes provided in the circuit. And the last part of this CRO, that is called as cathode ray tube, and this cathode ray tube that is the heart of this oscilloscope. Let us discuss the construction and working principle of this cathode ray tube. And this is the constructional details of cathode ray tube, which consist of various parts such as electron gun assembly, deflecting plate, fluorescent screen, glass envelope, as well as base. Now let us see what is the function of this electronic gun assembly. So first, this electronic gun assembly, which consists of various parts such as heater, pre-accelerating anode, and then a cathode, control grid, focusing anode, as well as accelerating anode. And the function of this electronic gun assembly is to produce a beam of electrons. Here the cathode is heated such that it will produce the number of electrons, and these electrons now passes through this control grid. And here the cathode, which will be in this shape of cylindrical shape, and at the end of this cylindrical shape coating is provided, that is the coating which is made by strontium and barium oxide. And the function or the purpose of providing this coat inside this cathode is to provide more number of electron emission from the cathode surface. These electrons are now passes through this control grid, and this control grid, which is made up of a material that is called as nickel material, and this control grid that will be provided at the center part of this tube, and the axis of this control grid that will be in coaxial with the cathode ray tube, that is both will be parallel to each other. And here the control grid, which is applied with positive potential between this pre-accelerating anode as well as the accelerating anode. Now the electrons from this control grid that will be focused through this focusing anode, and the function of this focusing anode is to focus the beam of electrons from the cathode towards the screen. After this focusing anode, the electrons that will be entering into the accelerating anode, where the speed of the anode, the speed of the electrons that will be accelerated, and so that will move towards the screen with high intensity. Now these beam of electrons that will be entering into horizontal as well as the vertical deflection plates, and these horizontal and vertical deflection plates are nothing but x-axis plate as well as the y-axis plates. Here the pair of plate which is producing the vertical deflection, that is called as vertical deflection plates, or otherwise called as y-axis plates. Similarly, the pair of plates which is used for the horizontal deflection, that is called as horizontal deflection plates, or otherwise called as x-axis plates. That is, whenever the forces are created, these horizontal plates that will be moving horizontally inside the tube. Similarly, these vertical plates that will be moving in vertical direction. That's why these two plates are called as vertical plates as well as the horizontal plates. And each set of plates or parallel and located at the neck of the tube. Here, this is the neck of the tube. At this neck of the tube, these two plates are provided, and when these electrons that will be entering into these deflection plates, and forces will be created, and these forces that will produces a light spot on the screen, and the electron beams entering inside the deflection plates will accelerate only in one direction, so that the electrons will not move here and there inside the tube. That will be flowing in only one direction. Screen used in this cathode ray tube, that is fluorescent screen, and this screen again which is coated with phosphor material. This phosphor material which is having a property to convert electrical energy into light energy. Here the energy level of this phosphor crystal increases whenever the electron beam strikes on the screen. Hence the light is emitted during this process. That phenomenon that is called as fluorescence. And the last part of this CRT, that is glass body and base. And here the entire CRT assembly that is provided inside a glass housing. So the purpose of providing the assembly that is called as, that is nothing but for the protection purpose. And here in between this neck and screen of this CRT, a aqueduct coating that is provided. So the purpose of providing this aqueduct coating is to accelerate the electron beam after passing through the deflection plates. That is, after this deflection plates, we have to increase the speed of electrons. That is done by means of this aqueduct coating. This aqueduct coating, that is the aqueous solution of a graphite which is connected to the anode actually. So this aqueduct which collects the electrons, and which is necessary to keep the electrical signals in the equilibrium condition. For that purpose only, this aqueduct coating, that is, so the electrons that strike on the screen with high velocity, it generates a bright light spot on the screen. If the beams that move so fast, then the light spot that will appears as the waveform on the screen. So that's why we have to accelerate the speed of electrons between this neck as well as the screen of the CRO. This can be done by means of this aqueduct coating arrangement. This is the construction and working principle of cathode ray oscilloscope. Applications and uses of CRO. This CROs that can be used to measure voltages as well as currents. Similarly, which is used to measure the phase and frequency of voltages as well as currents. And this is used to examine the waveform also. And coming to this uses of CRO, it is used to display the various quantities such as voltage, current, power, frequency, etc. And it is used to measure the short interval time, and in voltmeters it can measure the potential difference between any 2 points. These are the applications and uses of CRO.